Alongside Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Ben Habib, and the broadcast journalist Judita De Silva. Welcome back, everybody. I've got to say, there's quite a lot of love for Margaret Thatcher. So many people absolutely adamant that if she was here and in charge of this country, I said it before the break, that we wouldn't have half the mess that we have at the moment. Your challenge to you, though, continues. If social media was around like it is now, do you think that would influence things with her or not? Your thoughts on that? This story caught my eye. Lloyds Bank, right, they own the insurance company Scottish Widows. They have now issued some kind of suggested guidance about which word to try and avoid upsetting people or perhaps be as inclusive as possibly can be. One of these words is widows, which really caught my eye because of the amount of stupidity. If you own a brand literally called Scottish Widows, you can't then be saying that the word widows is triggering and offensive. Anyway, because it is so ludicrous, I need to move over from that part because I want to talk about the broader issue. So many organisations, they have what they call ESG. I'm going to bring a graphic up on the screen in case you're not familiar with what this is. But it's a sense of kind of government, and I would say it's almost like a spine. It underpins so much of what business does today. It stands for environmental, social and governance. And it's around things like how does a business perform when it comes to their environmental impact? How diverse are their employees? How diverse is their board? And so on and so forth. Do you think ESG is a force for good and much needed within business or not, Ben?
It is a force. We've talked about now 3 times, and I'm going to talk about it again. The extinguishing of the nation-state that is the United Kingdom.
There's a theme here, I can tell everyone.
And that is partly what ESG is delivering. It is the shutting down of the debate that you so correctly advocated for earlier, general democratic debate. It's the shutting down the debate about whether or not net zero is the right policy, first of all, so they can force businesses to adopt net zero through this regulatory requirement. And it is the imposition of prejudice within business, and it's not just business, by the way, it's government institutions, the armed forces, the police force, educational establishments, all of it requiring the promotion of ethnic and other minorities over and above, if necessary, to the detriment of the majority. It is the introduction of systemic institutionalised prejudice in the United Kingdom, which is going to damage dreadfully our economy, but also our culture, our cohesion as a society, and it's undermining, again, coming back to it, the nation-state that is the United Kingdom. ESG has to be ditched.
Strong words. Judita, do you agree with him?
I don't agree, because I think that with ESG, when you have them, what you're having an increase in is specialists in ESG being introduced into companies to kind of imbricate it into how the company functions. If you're moving in a direction of making your company's functionality be optimized in a way that is inclusive of anyone from any background who has the qualifications to occupy that position, that is a good thing. It is not a sense. When you think of affirmative action in America, the whole point was that students actually have the capability, but based on their origin and background, they do not have a robust enough platform to stand on to even compete. What you're doing is leveling the playing field. So look at everyone and pick the person with the qualifications, not somebody who has the deck stacked in their favour. ESG is something that, if you're saying you're moving towards net zero is a good thing, because when you think of generations that are going to come after, what are they going to inherit?
Why is net zero a good thing?
If you think the preservation of the climate is not...
but net zero isn't equivalent to the preservation of the climate or the protection of...
No,
net zero is a government policy which requires the United Kingdom to aim for zero carbon emissions by 2050. That is quite different to wishing to protect the environment, which all of us wish to do. Net zero is...
You think that
net zero is the government's...
function of that?
Well, it's an entirely arbitrary policy chosen by the government to deliver what it says is the right way to deal with climate change. But we're not allowed to have a debate on it. We're told that by 2050, if we haven't got the United Kingdom's carbon emissions down to zero, and there are a number of steps that we have to achieve on the way, the climate of this planet is going to burn up and we're all going to die. First of all, I challenge that assumption that 2050 is this magic date. Secondly, I challenge robustly that the measures being taken will actually get us to net zero by 2050. I don't think the technology exists to get us there without. I don't think we can survive as an economy in order to get to the position that they wish to get to. And what you don't do is save the planet by destroying the economy. We will all just die off if we don't have a viable economy. It's, as I mentioned at the beginning of this programme, it's costing us 60 billion minimum per annum for delivering net zero. It is not synonymous with wishing to conserve the environment or protect the planet. That is the government's idea of what the right thing to do is, and we should be at liberty to challenge it.
But first of all, I would say you're being negatively hyperbolic, because the idea of having organizations be accountable and be answerable, it's going to be difficult and it's going to be very uncomfortable, but it's moving in the right direction, however it makes you feel.
It's destroying our economy.
It isn't destroying the economy.
It is.
It's going through a teething process that's going to be difficult, but you're moving in the right direction. And the fact is that at the end of the day, the UK doesn't function in isolation. Countries around the world are employing the same kinds of policies because everybody recognizes that there's something that needs to be done and needs to be done soon before you get to, as you've said, hothouse Earth, which is the end, quote-unquote, end of the world. If you feel that the way it's going now, which the rest of the world is on board with, and everyone is doing it to varying degrees within their capacity, should not be done, do we sit back and let things carry on as they are?
Well, the United Kingdom is actually incredibly good as far as it comes to carbon emissions. Yet, we are adopting a policy in the teeth of a cost of living crisis, which burdens the working class and middle classes much more than it burdens the upper class, who can absolutely, the wealthy can go through all these net zero policies with ease. But it's the working and middle classes who pick up the burden. It's the ULEZ charge, the congestion charge, the green taxes on your fuel bill, VAT on your fuel bill, 48%
Ironically,
addition.
I completely agree with that the time it's being done is extremely difficult and puts excessive strain on, but the bastardizing of the actual policy itself is what I disagree with. So it is the right thing to do, but doing it now is just even harder than it would be in normal circumstances.
You know, so many people are getting in touch saying it's basically some form of kind of cultural Marxism. We've just been touching upon the environmental side of it, but another aspect of this, a very key core tenet of it, is the diversity angle, where so many companies, they're desperately trying to tick diversity quotas, opinions, and so on. Is this a good thing for business or not, Ben?
No, I think it's awful for business. I run a business which is regulated by the FCA. We're listed on the stock market, and we're obliged to comply with their regulations. And we have to produce endless reports on the composition of our board, the gender balance that we've got on our board, the gender balance we've got on the investments we make on behalf of funds, the ethnic mix, and I count myself, I can tick that box because I'm half Pakistani by origin. I'm entirely British, but half Pakistani, so I can tick that box. But what we're doing is dumbing down the economy, ejecting meritocracy, and choosing people based on the colour of their skin and other minority determinants over and above what we should be doing, which is choosing people purely on whether they're the best for that job. If we want a prosperous economy, the way you get that is by having really prosperous companies, businesses, and so on. And you do that by ensuring that everyone is treated equally. So everyone has an equal opportunity, but only the best get the job for which they're best at.
So equal opportunity, but not necessarily manufactured equal outcomes.
Absolutely.
Is that fair, Juditha?
I agree with certain points that you've made, where I do believe a meritocracy is the way any optimized society should function. But at the same time, what you have to recognize is there are certain vast swathes of people based on ethnicity and cultural heritage and where they come from don't even get in the room. What this is designed to do is engineer things. I agree, it is engineer things to create a level playing field. Then the meritocracy kicks in.
But it's not doing that, Juditha.
It depends on how you execute, because I say every company has the autonomy to execute policy the way they see fit, but you have to be seen to be engaging with that policy. The policy exists because it's something that has been ignored up until now. And I'm like, friends, family are testament to that, where there, for instance, I was in an Uber taxi where my driver is a doctor in Bulgaria. But here he has to drive an Uber because they say they don't recognize his qualifications. But he was a high-earning doctor, but he had to move because his wife wants to study. For him to get into that niveau of societal function, he needs something to kind of give him a boost. And this is the kind of thing that would do that, because once you hear him speak, once he actually shows you the qualifications and the actual practical application of them, you know he's good at it.
But that sounds a bit strange to me. So if someone's got medical qualifications in a different country, and I respect that, surely you've got to have some level of standard in this country which says, actually, this is the thing we expect, this is the thing we expect, and this is the thing we expect.
As he said, he didn't even get that opportunity, because once they say that your qualifications are from a medical school in Bulgaria, he can't get in. And he can't, at his age, in his late 40s, go back to medical school to re-qualify in the UK. But he's supporting his wife, who is going to university here.
But it's
so how do you give him an opportunity to function at the level he is capable of?
But it's a very dangerous slope, and we've gone down it far too far, where you choose people based on the colour of their skin. And that's what we're doing. You know, the armed forces spent £2 million last year trying to get ethnic minorities to fly jets because they didn't want white jet fighter pilots. As far as I'm concerned, what matters is the defence of the United Kingdom, and I want the best fighter pilots I don't care what colour they are. They could be any colour. I couldn't care less. And that's the message I want to drive home, is that people have to be treated equally. Even Martin Luther King said it. He said we should not be judged by the colour of our skin, but by the contents of our character. And ESG and the S in it, the DEI policy, is actually championing colour and ethnicity.
It isn't championing colour. I think that is a reductive way of describing it, which again triggers people into seeing it as a race thing. It's about origin and different countries that you come from. You might happen to look that way, but it's about coming from countries other than Britain. That is what it's engineered to police.
What, to promote foreign people in the workplace over British citizens?
No. Promote the opportunity to hire the best person for the job, and the possibility that the best person might not be the person who was born in Britain.
That's not how it's being implemented.
That's down to each organisation's ability to police itself.
See,